Hi guys, today I'd like to answer the question, should I work for a studio or should I freelance, go directly into freelancing? And this is a question I'm going to answer on this video. Before I do that, I always like to say if you ever want to check out my work or connect with me, the best way to do that is on my blog at willterry.blogspot.com. And so I got an email from someone, and I never like to use the names because I don't know if they really want me to use their name. It's probably better if they stay anonymous. So, but this person, and I'll often email them and say, hey, I'd love to use this as a to answer in a video. But this person was basically saying it's a long letter, and so I'm going to read some of it. But they're not sure if they should work on. They've been watching some of my other videos where I talk about making your own projects and having your own things that you're working on that you're trying to publish and produce on your own. And so they're saying, well, I don't know if I'm good enough to do that. I don't know if I have the amount of people that if I did do a project like that, I could get it out in front of enough people to actually see it and maybe want to buy it. And maybe I should go. Do you think I should go and work for a company, like for a studio, and get better working there, or just basically go and make money at a studio, or should I really go directly into freelance? And it sounds like this person is coming right out of school. So then the last paragraph is so yeah. The bottom line question is, should I focus on trying to get in, quote unquote, get in, if that's even viable anymore? And by that, from what I've been reading before, it meant freelancing. I mean, pro artists are always going to have these decades of experience on me, no matter how hard I work, aren't they? Or do I just do my thing and hope others end up liking it as much as I do? Um, and so that's really the question that I wanted to spend some time answering today, because I have talked a lot about doing personal projects and kind of going it on your own and doing your own thing, and talked about kind of the health or the lack of health in some of the illustration industries, such as editorial work kind of going away and not being as viable to go after editorial or advertising work. The state that the children's book world is in right now, the publishing world, which is very very viable, but there are more people going after those kinds of jobs than ever before, and so it's harder and harder to get that kind of work. And so I think that's a question that a lot of people have. I cut my teeth in the editorial market, which really is non-existent right now. So I think a lot of people are probably wondering, and I've had this question asked before, where do I go to learn and to get better? How do I get better enough to where I can get good enough to where people will want what I'm making, or where they'll hire me for freelance? And so um, the to me, the bottom line and the most important thing, and this is like Captain Obvious stuff, but the most important thing is that you're making great art. And so to me, there are lots of different roads to making great art. And if you polled, like if you went to a Comic Con, or let's say you went to CTN, and you went and interviewed everybody that's got a booth that's got that you say you would think are doing the best, the big shots, or you went to a LuxCon, or you went to one of those events and you interviewed all the top artists and you said, how did you get where you are? You're going to find a lot of different stories, and some people are going to come from animation, some people are going to come from freelance illustration, some people are going to come from having a job as an art director, having a job as a graphic designer first. Some are going to come from just straight out of college and working right into freelance. So the first part of the question is, I think that there is no, I can't say, you should do this to get where you want, because there's so many different ways of doing it. But the bottom line is, if you create great art, people are going to be attracted to it and are going to want to either hire you, or they're going to want to buy your products. So that's a given right there. So it's a matter of getting from A to B. And one thing that I want to really kind of back off on. I've been kind of critical about working for studios, in that they basically pay the pay rate is usually just enough, like any business, just enough to keep you there, just enough to get you attracted to want to go work there, but you're not really going to get rich and you're not going to really make a ton of money, especially if you're in the LA area where expenses, or the San Francisco area where the expenses are so high that you'll never really be able to afford to buy a house. I've encountered quite a few animators in that situation, and that's kind of why I've advised people, be careful about going and working for a studio. I'm going to back off of that a little bit because um, I do know, when you think about it, I do know a lot of people who are doing their own thing right now who came from animation. So I think there's really a couple types of people that go and work for a studio, and they're really the ones who go and get a studio job, and when they go home, they leave their art behind, and they enter their life and do whatever they want. And then there are those who look at the studio job as a stepping stone to something bigger and better. Um, I know an artist that worked at Pixar that just did one job, and I don't want to say what it is because I don't want this person to really know that I'm talking about them. Um, but they did one job, and that's all they did, and they didn't really do anything else. And it was I guess I would say it was one of the lower creativity type jobs. This person was there since Bug's Life, and and then when the person decided to leave to do other things in their life, they decided that they wanted to get into freelance illustration. But everything that they had done up to that point, their work had kind of atrophied. And so um, at that point, basically, they had to start over. And so this person specifically basically had to was in a position of asking me, like, well, what should I do? And I was looking at this person like, well, you work at Pixar, don't you do all this stuff? And no, the drawing skills, a lot of the skills were gone, or were never developed, the complete skills for doing illustration, simply because they were stuck in that one job. I know other people who have gone to those jobs, like my friend Jake Barker, like Ty Carter, like Dan Santat, who's in children's books right now, who came from animation, um, who weren't satisfied. That the studio was a great place to go and learn and work. And as far as Ty Carter goes, his learning has skyrocketed to where I don't think I've ever seen anybody paint as well as he does. He works for Blue Sky right now, and in just a few short years after graduation at college, his work is just amazing. It blows me away, and um, and that's just I attribute a lot of that to being in the studio environment, um, being pushed by your peers, having to put your work up in front of other professionals, having to make sure that you're not going to get fired because you're not doing good enough work. And so his work is at a point now where he's starting to sell his own sketchbooks, his own little books at these Comic Cons and stuff like that. He'll basically be able to do anything he wants on his own, and he'll have the Blue Sky title behind him to follow him wherever he goes. Um, so one thing I would say, the question that you're asking is, should I go get a studio job or should I go into freelance? And I think that again, there are people who are comfortable working at home. Take Brooke Boynton, for instance, who is she went to the New York Academy of Art. You can look her up. She's a children's book illustrator. Went to the New York Academy of Art to get better at figure work, and got a master's degree. And then her children's book work, I don't think you'd ever really look at it and say, gosh, I can really tell that she went to the New York Academy of Art and studied figurative drawing and painting. But that work translates into the kind of work she's doing. And And she told us in one of the videos, that one of our video classes that we did at SVS, that that she went to SCBWI, that's the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. You can look them up online. To the national chapter in LA. And I've never heard of this happening before, but she went out there and showed her portfolio and ended up walking away with 2 book contracts. So sometimes people will say, well, I don't know if I can just, is it possible to just enter into freelance illustration? Well, I would say for her, it's definitely possible. Her work has a little bit of a polish to it. It's also, it's a watercolor. It's kind of a, I wouldn't say it's a loose style at all, but it's definitely not super rendered, and it's not, it definitely doesn't look digital, even though she uses some digital to enhance it. Um, so you look at someone like that, and they're going right directly into freelance, and so their perspective, probably her perspective is probably like, well, why would I want to go get a studio job? Why would I want that? Another one like that is Jim Madsen. You can look him up, Madsen, Jim Madsen. Um, and he didn't even finish college, and just worked, and got his artwork so good that he's been working in a studio job, um, doing both. Well, he's been working as in the studio doing educational children's software, but also he does a lot of freelance illustration through Shannon Associates as his rep. So I guess the message that I'm trying to give is that a lot of people come um, into being able to kind of write their own course, and it's coming from different ways. But all of these people that I'm mentioning, Jeff Miracola is another one, who started working for Magic the Gathering and did a lot of Magic cards, and never worked for the studio as far as I'm aware. Um, and he actually has a really good YouTube channel. You can check him out. Miracola is Miracola, and so he worked really hard in school, and started getting these jobs. And his early work, I'm sure, wasn't anywhere near the polish that it has to it now. But he's doing work now that's just amazing. He's constantly getting into the Spectrum catalogs, and I really think what it comes down to is 2 things. One, do you love art? Do you love making art? Is that the most important thing in your life? And 2, are you willing to work really, really hard doing it? Because if you are, and you're willing to work for years, anybody can get great at doing this. If I look at some of these people, I look and see where they've been, where they started, and they look like just like anybody else in school. Or it's not, it's never, it's never this gift that's just bestowed upon someone from the beginning. They've had to work for it. And so when I look at someone's sketchbook, when I look at someone's portfolio, and it doesn't look like they've moved really far in their career yet, I think, well, they just haven't worked. They haven't drawn enough yet. They really haven't done enough drawing and enough painting. But doing that, and it's going to take years. That's the bad news. The good news is that if you're willing to spend the time, you can do it. It has to be. I know a lot of people will try to switch careers, and just kind of say, and kind of throw a dart and say, well, I'm gonna jump into this, or I'm gonna jump into that, simply because it sounds interesting, but they're not fully committed. The thing that you have to realize is that in any discipline, whether it's in sports, or whether it's in art, or whether it's in computer programming, there's going to be people that love it so much that they're willing to go the distance. They're willing to go further. They're willing to sacrifice. They're willing to forego a lot of other pleasures in life for their career. And you get to a point where I think where it gets more and more fun, the better you get. Um, and I think I've mentioned this on videos before. There were times when I was in school where the longest I could work on a painting, the longest I could sit in the chair was like 2 hours. And now I can work all day. I mean, I'll go for a walk in between for a break, or I'll do something with the family for a little while. But but now I can work on a drawing for days, and an illustration for days, whatever it takes to make it the best. And it's easy to do that now. It's not hard. So if it's scary to you, like I don't know if I can do this, I don't, it's not like you can do it overnight. Nobody does. It's incremental. And so, back to the question, should I get a studio job or should I work freelance? I think it's really up to what can you do, or how do you work, or how do you, I don't know how to say it, but what environment is going to make it the easiest for you to get better? If you need really sharp and quick deadlines and you need someone telling you what to do, the studio environment might be the best. If you feel like you still have a lot more to learn, which we all do, the studio environment again might be the best. Um, but if you're really self-motivated, and if you're the type of person that can give yourself assignments one at a time, if you are the type of person who perhaps um, can afford to spend the time doing it on your own and not getting paid, because that's a big one too. How do you learn and be able to afford to eat at the same time? Freelance might be a harder route for that reason. Um, I think that it takes a lot of sacrifice though to get where you want to be. And I remember in the early years, um, I would I was working 6 and 7 days a week sometimes, just because I had that much work to do. But it was also making me better, and I was kind of throwing myself into it. I don't have to do that much now. I still do work long hours, but I enjoy it so much more now because I'm working on the kinds of projects that I want to do now. So I think I hope that kind of answers the question. Probably not in the most satisfying way. Again, I think there are many roads in, and I think that you probably have to identify the type of person that you are. But make sure that you're drawing every day, and then that you're improving every day. If you're drawing every day, you're going to be improving every day, and that's the way that you can attract a studio to hire you, is if your portfolio is really good. And the only way it's going to get really good is by drawing every day and drawing all kinds of different things and forcing yourself to draw and do the kinds of things that aren't natural. A lot of people get in this comfortable zone of drawing the same types of things, the same characters, the same poses and stuff. Um, and I've talked about this before, about actually designing the whole drawing. You need to identify where you're weak in your portfolio, and try to round it out and try to become more than just pigeonholing yourself in one place or another. If you do want to have a portfolio to get character design work, or to get background painting type work, then have more than one portfolio so you can whip out different portfolios and show that you can do different things. But that's probably the best advice I can give you, is to work really hard and don't think that you're going the wrong way either direction, that both are definite pathways to success. And anyway, that's my message for today, and thanks for watching.